Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're tuning into AMTV Alternative Media Television. Happy Halloween. Hope everyone is doing well. On a more serious note, Ebola has now admittedly become aerosolized according to the CDC, which means it can be transferred via droplets. This is according to the CDC website. They released a diagram late yesterday that was since taken down off the website that showed how you could contract Ebola, the deadly virus, with, by the way, 40 to 75%-ish kill rate, by the way, could contract the disease via droplets, which means that if somebody coughs or somebody sneezes and you inhale that virus, or it hits you in the eye, or it passes through your nasal passageway, or your mouth, or any other bodily orifice for that matter, you can contract the disease. Now, this is a sharp contrast to what we heard from the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, a government agency, WHO, the World Health Organization, just a few weeks ago, who said you could not get the disease unless you had direct contact. Now, of course, we know that this is total and utter bullshit because there's been scientific studies done, which I mentioned in my documentary, The Truth About the Outbreak, namely in Canada, where they separated primates and pigs in two separate cages, and then the infection spread mysteriously without any direct contact, leading the scientists to believe the only logical conclusion was that the disease was airborne and it spread that way. So you see, the CDC is releasing this information piece by piece so that the American people, I think, can digest the truth about this deadly disease, maybe quite literally. So this is very serious. Now, of course, there's some debate on what defines an airborne disease. Technically, an airborne disease is defined as a disease, Ebola or any other disease for that matter, that can be transferred via a liquid carrier. Droplets is technically different. But in my mind, and I think in Americans' minds, and I think in just people in general, the fact that the CDC has now admitted that in addition to direct contact, you can now become infected and transmit the deadly Ebola virus via droplets that go airborne in the air, which means when you cough or sneeze, they travel on particles, droplets, it's particleized, and can move from person to person. Now, of course, studies have been done, and I believe personally that this virus is full-blown airborne. And again, the CDC is releasing this piece by piece quietly, as so that they don't cause panic. As we discussed this before, and it's just common sense, the CDC, a government agency, the President of the United States, Washington, the elites, they're not going to tell you that the outbreak is going to worsen. They're not going to tell you the seriousness of the outbreak because their number one priority is to quell panic and to keep the people in line, to keep the masses, moving the same direction. So this is quite serious, a quite serious development. And the diagram that was released, I actually took a screenshot of. I was lucky to get a screenshot of it, has since been removed from the CDC website. So Ebola now officially has become aerosolized, meaning it travels via droplets on an airborne path from person to person. Again, I think in the not too distant future, they're going to release it again piece by piece and finally admit that it's full-blown airborne and can be transferred via a liquid carrier. But it really is just a semantics game, folks. It really is just a war of words. Bottom line is that this disease is spreading. It's been brought to America willfully. Obama still has our borders open. People are still flying in to the United States. We have U.S. soldiers, estimates ranging from up to 4,000 that have been deployed in Liberia with guns to fight the virus that are also being exposed. And at least our soldiers are being quarantined. We're not seeing this happen with civilians, with people like Thomas Eric Duncan that exposed himself to hundreds, if not thousands of people upon his return and his resulting death. Of course, the New York City physician who had been working with Doctors Without Borders, who came back to New York City and exposed himself to the New York City subway system, went bowling, took a taxi cab service, went to the park. Craig Spencer. I believe all of this is going to worsen dramatically in the coming months. There's going to be an explosion of the infection rate. And once it gets really bad, once the fear really starts to ramp up, Obama will just spin it as a humanitarian crisis. It'll be, wow, like, this is out of control. Sorry. We underestimated the outbreak, just like the CDC underestimated the infection rate in Africa just a few months ago, and now it's exploded to over, I believe, 1.4 million infections, and I'm sure that number is wrong, by the end of January 2015. So although, it's good to take time with your friends and family, celebrate the holidays, celebrate Halloween, this puts everything into perspective as we travel. Some of you maybe even travel internationally, or you travel through airports and, through the airline system in the coming months, knowing now that the disease can also be contracted via droplets. So if you're in a situation where there's recirculated air, and you're doing just what normal people do, normal Americans, as I travel quite frequently myself, you're being exposed to this deadly virus. And of course, I'll be watching this very closely, as I think you should as well, and to see how this develops and how the infection rate actually moves forward in the coming months. Hopefully they can contain it. Hopefully the government has our best interests at heart. But as we learn time and time again, they don't. And there's a reason we need to have a healthy distrust for our government agencies, the president, as was the very foundation of the United States of America and this great country. I'm Christopher Green. Get this video out everywhere. Make it viral, hard-hitting it in your face, and click the link below to support our sponsor.